Hey everyone. Please support what I do to help keep Greyhawk alive by subscribing to the channel. Also, please consider becoming a channel member to get early access to videos, exclusive live chats, quarterly adventure modules, and more. Thanks, and enjoy the show. I was thinking about writing adventures in Greyhawk and the different kinds of adventures that you can write in a game setting. That's what I want to talk about today on Greyhawk Ragnar. So part of what I do over at greyhawkragnar.com is I write adventures for free, and people can download them and run them and so forth. The adventures that are there on the website are very keyed into specific adventures in Greyhawk. Published adventures from the good old days, and it got me thinking that there are actually a number of different ways that you can approach writing an adventure for the world of Greyhawk, or really any setting. And I wanted to kind of, run through some of what I see as the options. Now, the first type of adventure that you can do is the kind of generic adventure that doesn't have any real tie to the setting itself. And everybody does this. This is part and parcel of being a DM. You write an adventure, you plop it in. It's a tomb in the woods somewhere, and the adventurers find a map to it, and they go and explore it. It doesn't have to have any kind of um, particular relevance to the setting. It doesn't have to, be tied into Ayus or the Great Kingdom or the Scarlet Brotherhood. Or it's just there. It's just this. It doesn't have any real history that goes beyond the boundaries of the dungeon, and that's it's all self-contained. You could run this in Greyhawk or Forgotten Realms or just about any other setting, and it wouldn't change much. It would, you might want to change a name here or there, but it doesn't really have any ties. It's self-contained. That's what I call like the first type of dungeon. Now, if you step that up one level, you get to a dungeon that is that is tied into the setting, and the the setting informs things that are going on in the dungeon, and without that kind of background, the dungeon doesn't make a lot of sense. And a good example of this, and when I say dungeon, I mean adventure generically. When I say this, I'm talking about things like, oh, if you have an adventure that features the Scarlet Brotherhood, or the Slave Lords, or Ayus, or some other well-established element of the setting, it becomes necessary to have that background of the setting for the dungeon to work. Uh, so, for example, if you have an adventure where the PCs are trying to root out a hive of Scarlet Brotherhood agents in a royal court. There's this a node of people that are working and spying and assassinating for the Scarlet Brotherhood, and the PCs have to go root them out and everything like that. That doesn't really work. It doesn't really translate into other campaign settings without some work. Can still be done, absolutely. If you were running Forgotten Realms, you could take that same basic concept and apply it to, say, the Zhentarim. Because they're a secret society, they do that kind of thing, but it would take some effort, especially if you tied in the Scarlet Brotherhood idea with, specifically they are uh, uh, targeting Iridian noble families, and that's making room for the Sul derived royal families to come to ascendance. Once you start, the deeper you go into the lore of the setting and make it relevant to the adventure, the harder it becomes to separate the adventure from the setting, and that's like level two, right? That's I'm writing something for the setting, and it's relevant to the setting, and in so doing, you're also growing the setting by doing that. By just plopping a generic tomb in the forest somewhere, you're not really growing the setting. But by taking established elements of the setting and then taking them forward a notch by having them be active in a place in that setting, you're growing the setting because you're growing the lore of that setting. And that's like the second level, the second layer of how you can design a dungeon. Is you can bring in these ties, and that requires a lot of research, because there is an established body of lore. And if you're going to take the trouble of um, of designing an adventure that plugs into that lore. You want to make sure that you're not contradicting something otherwise. At least that's how I approach it. I mean, some other people, uh, you know, whatever I say is what happens. And if I want to say that the Scarlet Brotherhood is pro Flan rather than pro Sul, that's in my campaign. And yeah, you can absolutely do that. But if you're going to do that, why not just make your own campaign? Um, and then the third level of this is where you're making an adventure that plugs into a published adventure. And this is what you see uh, on my website, is where I have things like Journey to Hamlet, which is a prequel to the Village of Hamlet, Temple of Elemental Evil. It's not just in the setting; it is in the setting and applies to a specific um, published dungeon adventure that was published a long time ago. And this is like the third level of how you can make dungeons for Greyhawk or another setting. Is that you are expanding the published work in a way that is direct and can be used in conjunction with that specific published work. So you can do this in any number of ways. You can have side adventures that plug into a published thing, like I did just recently. I did a one of my Sunday adventure hooks was a side quest that you can easily plug into the Slave Lord series, doing the rescue in the Pomarge. And there's a number of reasons you might want to do this. You might want to give an opportunity for your players to learn more information. They might need a few more XP. They might need to level up a little bit. So you're going to throw them something that they can go into. But you don't just want to make it some generic. Oh, you're attacked by an ogre in the hills. You want to make it relevant to what they're already doing, so it doesn't feel just tacked on. So you design this thing that is tangentially. Or even more directly related to the adventure they're already in or about to be in. Um, and you can do this for a number of different ways. I really like doing this as a way of giving more information because um, I'm always a fan of making sure that the PCs have opportunities to learn about all the cool stuff I've written for a dungeon or that has been written for a dungeon. So in the case of Temple of Elemental Evil, you have these factions. You have the different elemental temples. You have Lolth. You have Ayuz. You've got all these different things going on, but unless the PCs have an opportunity to learn about that, they can never A, appreciate it, or B, use it to their own advantage. So by giving them these little side things, you allow them a peek behind the curtain, and you give them an opportunity to do things more than just busting in with swords and attacking the whole thing. Same thing with the slave lords. If you give the PCs an opportunity to kind of find out some of the inner workings of what the slave lords are doing, that they have these agents up and down the coast. You can start off by picking off one or two of those agents that work for the thieves guilds, and you can kind of ease them into it that way. It becomes a much more important and significant uh, set of adventures rather than you're hired by a bunch of nobles to do something. But if they glean onto this on their own and then they have to go to the nobles to convince them to support them in their quest to stop the slavers, that turns the whole thing on its head, and it becomes they become much more invested in it. So it's a way to kind of bring the PCs into the setting more by giving them that background. You give them a reason to want to play in Greyhawk as opposed to playing in Forgotten Realms or Athos or Ravenloft or whatever. By giving them access to that lore in game, in character, you give them a reason to become invested. And it'll matter to them if they come across a Knight of the Heart as opposed to a Knight of the Watch. If they've already experienced these two, if they've already had run-ins with the two different orders of knights, and the one treated them well and the other treated them indifferently or badly, then that's going to impact the way they the way they see those organizations, and that can color their future things in other adventures. So there's real in-game reasons for tying stuff into the lore. In the end, it makes it a much more enjoyable experience for the players, because they're not just existing in a vacuum, not knowing what the hell's going on around them. They're deeply engaged. They know, okay, the Queen of Selene over here is isolationist, and there's this faction of nobles that want to bring Selene in more into the mainstream, and this that gives them motivations for getting involved in things. It's just, as a rule, I find it much more entertaining and more effective to do it that way. So from my perspective, those are the three. You got your generic little plop it down, it can go anywhere. You've got the second type, which is connected into the lore of the setting, and if you take it out, it would require a lot of rework to make it work somewhere else. And that gives players a reason to become involved and invested in the setting. And then you've got the third kind, which is directly related to a published adventure that you are expanding. You are giving your players opportunities to learn more knowledge and lore, or you're giving them an opportunity to get more XP and maybe level up, because the adventure that's coming is a little tougher than they're ready for, and you want to give them a little boost. So anyway, those are my thoughts on making Greyhawk adventures and the various kinds that you can do. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you have you tried to work the lore in a significant way, and has it turned out well? Has it panned out? I would love to hear your experiences on this topic. So hope you're all having a wonderful day, and I will talk to you soon. And stay safe from Pinkertons.
Thanks for watching today's video. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Below you'll find links to my Patreon, which helps make these videos possible. You'll also find the web store where you can buy my books, and my blog where you'll find all sorts of free downloads and other articles. Thanks, and have a great day.